Beer is older than the wheel. It's older than money. It's older than most gods we still worship today. Before humans could write, before they built cities, before they even settled in one place, they were already brewing beer. Some historians even think beer might have done something incredible. They think it might have helped convince ancient humans to stop wandering and start farming. That's right. Beer might be the reason you're not still living in a cave. Sounds crazy, but stick with me. Because in the next few minutes, we're going to travel thousands of years through forgotten civilizations, through kings, monks, plagues, and revolutions, before uncovering how one distant land turned beer into something much bigger than a drink, a part of its identity. Keep that in mind as we go. Somewhere out there, on the other side of the world, a country was waiting to fall in love with beer in a way nobody expected. But we're not there yet. First, we go back. Way back. So where did beer actually begin? The honest answer is, nobody knows for sure. And that's part of the mystery. Some experts believe beer was discovered by accident. Grain got wet, it sat around, wild yeast landed on it, and something magical happened. No one planned it, no one designed it. It just happened. Some archaeologists even believe this accidental discovery happened before bread. That means beer might be older than bread itself. A strange thought, considering how much we think of bread as the basic food of ancient life. But here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. Once ancient people tasted this accidental drink, they never forgot it. And they started chasing that magic on purpose. Let's go to one of the oldest civilizations on Earth, Mesopotamia. This is where some of the very first proof of beer shows up. Clay tablets, thousands of years old, and on them, beer recipes. One of these tablets contains something historians call the oldest known recipe in human history. Not for bread, not for soup, for beer. The Sumerians even had a goddess of beer. Her name was Ninkasi. They wrote hymns about her, not just recipes, actual songs of praise for beer. Beer wasn't just a drink to them, it was sacred. But that's only half the story. In ancient Mesopotamia, beer wasn't just for parties. Some workers were actually paid in beer, as a wage, as payment for labor. Historians believe some of the massive building projects of the ancient world were powered by workers who received beer as part of their daily rations. Imagine turning up to work and getting paid in beer. There's something else that might surprise you. In Mesopotamia, beer was often drunk through long reed straws. Historians believe this was because the beer contained leftover bits of grain floating on top. The straw let people drink around the mess and get to the good part underneath. This is where everything gets even stranger. In ancient Egypt, beer wasn't just for workers or nobles. It was for almost everyone, rich or poor. Even children sometimes drank a weaker version. Egyptian beer was thick, almost like a soup. It wasn't just a drink. For many people, it was also a meal. Workers who built some of Egypt's most famous monuments received beer as part of their daily pay, alongside bread. Historians studying ancient records believe these workers were often skilled laborers, not slaves, as many people assume today. Beer in ancient Egypt wasn't a luxury. It was survival. But civilizations rise, and civilizations fall. So what happens to beer next? We jump forward in time, into medieval Europe, and here's where things get interesting. Water in medieval towns could be deadly. Cities were crowded, sanitation was poor. Diseases spread easily. But beer was boiled during brewing. And that simple step could kill many of the dangers hiding in dirty water. So people turned to beer, not to get drunk, to survive. Even children in medieval Europe often drank a weak, low-strength beer with meals. It was safer than the local water supply, and it gave them a bit of extra energy for the day. But who perfected it? Monks. Inside quiet monasteries, monks brewed with incredible care. They experimented. They refined recipes. Some monasteries became so respected for their beer, they're still famous today. Monks also brewed for a very practical reason. During fasting periods when solid food was restricted, some monks were allowed to drink beer instead. They sometimes jokingly called their strongest brews liquid bread because it helped keep their strength up. Because of them, beer went from a rough farmhouse drink to something refined, something people trusted. Then, without warning, everything changed again. The Industrial Revolution arrived, and beer that once took hours to brew in small batches could now be made on a massive scale. New machines allowed brewers to measure temperature and ingredients with far greater precision than ever before. New refrigeration allowed brewers to create lighter, crisper styles. Trains and ships carried beer further than ever before. For the first time in history, beer could travel the world without spoiling along the way. And once beer started traveling, it began shaping cultures far beyond Europe. It found its way into places nobody expected, including one country where the climate, the culture, and the people would turn beer into something almost sacred all over again. That country is Australia. When British settlers began arriving in Australia in the late 1700s, they didn't just bring tools and supplies, they brought their drinking habits too. Beer quickly became one of the most valued things in the colony. But there was a problem. Australia's climate is nothing like Britain's. It's hot, dry, sometimes brutally so. Picture a settler after a full day clearing land under a burning sun. No shade, no relief, just heat, dust, and exhausting work from sunrise to sunset. At the end of a day like that, a cold beer wasn't a luxury. It felt like the only thing making the hardship bearable. Early on, beer in the colony was often brewed locally out of necessity, since importing it from Britain was slow and expensive. Some of the earliest colonial brews were rough and inconsistent, made from whatever grains were available, sometimes even including sugar or ginger when barley was scarce. Then came a moment that changed everything: the gold rush. In the mid-1800s, gold was discovered in Australia. Thousands of hopeful people rushed in from all over the world, chasing a new life. Mining towns sprang up almost overnight. Life there was rough and uncertain. Some miners struck it rich, many didn't. But nearly every one of them ended their day in the same place: the local pub. It was where they shared stories, celebrated a lucky find, or quietly forgot an unlucky one. Beer wasn't just refreshment anymore. It became part of mateship, part of belonging in a hard, unfamiliar land. Here's a fact that might surprise you. Some early Australian pubs became more trusted meeting points than banks or post offices, especially in remote mining towns far from any city. In some towns, the pub was often the very first permanent building constructed, appearing even before a church or a school. As more people settled permanently, local breweries began appearing across the country. Brewers adapted their beer to survive the heat: lighter, crisper, more refreshing. Some of Australia's earliest breweries were founded in the 1800s and are still operating today, having survived droughts, economic downturns, and even world wars. Over time, this shaped something new, a style and culture of its own, different from Britain, different from Europe. And soon, beer wasn't just something people drank at home. It became tied to sport, to weekends, to mateship at the cricket, the footy, and backyard barbecues. Watching sport in Australia and holding a cold beer became almost inseparable. Here's another surprising fact. During the Second World War, beer was considered so important for morale among Australian troops that authorities worked to keep it in steady supply, even during shortages of other goods. Beer wasn't just a drink, it was comfort, familiarity, a small piece of home carried into difficult and uncertain times. After the war, Australian beer culture kept evolving. Refrigeration became common in pubs and homes, and the idea of an ice-cold beer on a hot day became almost a national expectation rather than a treat. Today, Australia has one of the most creative craft beer scenes in the world, small breweries experimenting with bold new flavors while still holding on to old traditions. But at its heart, it's still the same idea that started thousands of years ago. People gathering, sharing a drink, sharing a moment. From ancient workers paid in beer, to monks perfecting their craft in silence, to sunburnt gold miners toasting their luck, to a backyard barbecue today. Beer has quietly traveled through almost every chapter of human history. Every glass carries thousands of years of human history inside it. So next time you see someone raise a drink, you might be watching a tradition older than most of civilization itself. So here's a question for you. If you could sit down and share a drink with people from any era in history, which time period would you choose? Let me know in the comments.